Assalamu alaikum viewers, a very warm welcome to all of you watching Hidayat TV, and I'm Haider with another episode of Generation Gap. Viewers, today we will be talking about the post-election scenarios in Pakistan, and we will see that what are the most difficult challenges ahead for this nation. Before we start the program, we had so many comments, positive and negative, for last week's show regarding Woolwich murder. So I just want to issue, there was a comment made by one of our guests regarding this, but it's been taken out of the context. However, I still issue an unreserved apology regarding that. So let's start our program, and to discuss the post-election scenarios in Pakistan, we are joined by Asif Zaidi. Assalamu alaikum, Asif.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you very much for joining us. Asif has joined us from New York, where he's attending a conference. He's a writer, blogger, and activist, and writes frequently on the social media. Thank you very much for joining us, Asif. Tell us, how have you seen this transition from one civil setup to this to date? What's your initial reaction on that?
Thank you, Tessin. My reaction on the elections is very positive, in the sense that the transition has gone smoothly, despite the threats from the extremists and the menace of terrorism. People have come out in large numbers to vote for their favorite candidates and parties. That's a triumph for democracy. The results are not unexpected. Most people, political pundits, and most views, independent views, showed Nawaz Sharif emerging as a victor. So we thought in the programs you held just a week before.
That's what I was
election.
about to say. But we didn't predict it that it's going to be a landslide for Mr. Sharif.
No, I predicted more than 90 seats, if you recall. And then I went back and did my maths, and I could see that he had almost 105 seats in his bag. I think he ran a very efficient campaign. He was immensely popular in Punjab. He garnered 49% of the votes in Punjab and 52% of the votes in Hindko-speaking area, which generally votes with northern Punjab. So he was clearly poised to win. Where I've been surprised is that PTI and the People's Party have won less seats than expectations. One would have expected both of them to be around 40 seats. But I think those seats have partly gone to Nawaz Sharif, where he has won some tight battles, and a few of them to independents. Independents in this election, in Punjab, independents are always an important factor because of the candidate loyalty in a number of constituencies. And this time, there were 13% votes that were backed by the independents across the province, which was above 2008, when independents got 11% votes. So that was a bit surprising, despite a very tight election. So PPP and PTI emerged as net losers. PMLN did slightly better than it was expected to do, but it was expected to carry the election with a clear mandate, which it did.
We see the populist vote. I mean, 7.6 million votes won by Imran Khan. The second in, and obviously Nawaz Sharif won more populist vote as well. But between People's Party and PTI, People's Party have won more seats than PTI, but PTI has emerged as the second most populist individual votes holder. So how do you see this?
I think this is a positive indication that a third force has emerged in Pakistan, because PPP will recoup some of the ground it has lost. It has an old established followership all over the country. Nawaz Sharif, I would say Nawaz Sharif won first time more votes than PTI and PPP put together. They put together got about 33.4% of the votes. Nawaz Sharif himself alone carried over 35% of the votes. That is significant. Second thing is PTI got about 17.8% of the total votes in Pakistan, as compared to People's Party's 15.6%. So it's emerged as number 2 party. But what was important was that in Punjab, it clearly emerged as the second biggest party with 19% of the votes, and that is where it needs to work. Because with 148 seats out of 272, Punjab accounts for 55% of the seats in National Assembly and about 60% of Pakistan's total voter base. What is positive in PTI's victory is that it has shown its popularity across the country except rural Sindh and Balochistan. So in Karachi, Punjab, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, it has emerged as a clearly number 2 or number 1 party in some areas. In Karachi, it was able to garner 27% of the total votes in the city as compared to MQM's 56%. This has happened after a very long time. So which shows that PTI, now when you go into detail, I'll not bore you with undue details, but you will see that PTI's votes primarily were backed in urban areas. So which shows that it has a lot of work to do to reach out the people outside of urban centers. And even in cities, it has still a lot of work to do in the poorer neighborhoods. Second thing, it has to build its voter base in Punjab. Now, your third remark was that even though People's Party has won about 2% less votes than PTI, it has still got more seats than PTI. That is understandable because when a party sweeps the election in an area, it gets more seats than it backs the number of votes. Like MQM got 5.6%, but got about 6.6% of the seats. Last time it got about 7%. So that is normal because its voter base is focused and they sweep across an area. So People's Party got 29 seats in Sindh by backing only 38% of the votes in Sindh. What is to be noted here also is that People's Party, although it is still swept the election in rural Sindh, it is losing its power base there because last time it had backed 43% of the total votes and this time it was about 38%. So it needs to do some work there also. MQM also, yeah, go ahead.
This obviously the number game, and let's move better into this post-election scenario. The government has been formed now. Nawaz Sharif will be the next premier for next 5 years, hopefully. And what are the basic challenges you think he will face as being in the center of Pakistan?
Yeah, thanks, Tehseen. In terms of post-election scenario, there are two important priorities. One is the economy. The Pakistan's economy is in the very, I would say, very bad shape, if not distressed. And Nawaz Sharif will have to address the economic situation. In Pakistan, decades of internal political disputes and low level of foreign investment have led to a very dire situation, a slow economic growth and underdevelopment. It's very difficult to attract investment which the country badly needs because of the world's economic downturn, because of the unrest in the country and because of the threat of terrorism. So it is going to be a tough act for Nawaz Sharif. And second main challenge for me to Nawaz Sharif will be the degree to which he will be able to wrest the control of foreign policy from the powerful security apparatus in the country. So these are the two main areas where he will have to focus. He will have to focus on the economy. He will have to do something quickly on the energy crisis. He will have to provide relief to the general population of the country that has made a lot of sacrifices over the last 5 to 7 years.
So the challenges are huge. Challenges are
enormous. Yeah, enormous. It's not a job to envy at this point.
And do you think that he has the right team in place I mean, we have the stalwarts like Sir Taj Aziz, who's 85-year-old, and then Ishaq Dar, who's been a finance minister before, and he's been known well within the economist circle. So, do you think he will be able to handle, firstly, on the investment and the challenges regarding the industrial side?
Nawaz Sharif is a pragmatic person, or among his close associates. I don't think there is much depth there. We have seen all those people. There are no new faces that have come up. We have seen Sartaj Aziz, Ishaq Dar, Chaudhry Nisar, all of them. And they add value, but I think the challenges far surpass them. So Nawaz Sharif will have to induct some technocrats, some capable and tried people to be able to meet some of these challenges. So you are right. I think in the world generally, and in Islamabad in particular, all eyes are set on Nawaz Sharif's cabinet choices, particularly who will be his foreign minister and who will be his finance minister.
So
yes.
So, I mean, are you comfortable with the team he has, yes or no, at the moment?
I am not entirely comfortable with his team that is around him, but there is no one stopping him from going out and enlisting the talent.
Okay. And what about the internal, you know, I want to discuss the internal peace across the Pakistan. I mean, we will have a different government in KP. Balochistan, again, as in always, there is a BLA is fighting for its own right. Karachi, MKM and PPP are going again together. And then we have Centre and Punjab with the Sharif brothers. So how do you see these things unfolding in terms of the security situation?
Yeah, security situation internally will be his biggest challenge. I think if anyone can address the situation in Pakistan, though his chances of success are slim, but what was offered in the election, Nawaz Sharif affords the best chance and the best possibility to address the situation. Even if there is improvement, it will not be a quantum leap. There will have to be very gradual improvement. Why I say that he stands a good chance? Because he has the trust and the confidence of Saudi Arabia, which is a very important player in Pakistan and which has deep connections in Pakistan apart from the government, as you understand. Second, he is widely trusted by religious-minded people across Pakistan, so that misgiving or mistrust is not there. So it is more difficult for the extremists or for people with hidden agendas to create a mistrust for Nawaz Sharif's Islamic or Muslim credentials among the general population. So he is better able to take some difficult decisions. And if you remember, in the early 90s, when they came into power, Nawaz Sharif and Haider had the political will at that time to nail in some of the extremist outfits that were a menace at that point in time. So they did quite well for 2 years. There is no reason why he can't repeat the same performance, but not with the same degree of success, because things are a lot more complicated today. The extremists are a lot more powerful and better entrenched than ever before. But let's give hope a chance.
So
I think, sorry.
Please go ahead.
No, I think his main challenge would be to get Saudi Arabia and the US completely on board in terms of his vision internally, and to have the security forces completely on board. He has already spelled out his priorities. He has reached out to India, which means if you can have a good relationship with India, then your one flank is covered, and lot of energy that is lost in friction with India can be saved and redirected elsewhere more productively.
How do you see the role of the firebrand Islamist or firebrand mullahs within Pakistan within the next 5 years? Because obviously we must remember the Taliban are the one who have nominated Nawaz Sharif for negotiations, and he's one of their trusted We don't know. I mean, what do you think? What will be their role?
It is, uh, it is yet to be seen to what extent Nawaz Sharif will choose to displease them, because their role will be, my main worry would be that Nawaz Sharif does not make too many concessions to buy peace from them, because that will not be a good and advisable longer term solution. That is something that Nawaz Sharif can do, like they did in Punjab during their government for last 5 years. We all saw that. But that allows the extremism to deepen its roots and to broaden its reach. Nawaz Sharif must tackle the problem. This is important. His first challenge would be allow the US a safe passage out of Afghanistan in 2014. His next challenge would be to realign his view on Afghanistan with the new emerging reality, as we saw in the last governments of Nawaz Sharif. Although he had significant differences with the military on India and relationships with India, he had very little in different from the military in terms of the country's view on Afghanistan. So he was pro-Taliban and he was pro-strategic depth and all those notions that were abounding at that point in time. So I hope that he has learned and he is more pragmatic. If that does not happen,
Perception within the media and within the scholars that everyone is thinking that he is a mature man, but being pro-Taliban, as you said, and being pro-strategic depth in those days in the late 1990s, how do you think his relationship will be towards military establishment within the Pakistan and the Taliban, who will be left alone after NATO withdrawal in 2014?
the first thing is to see through NATO withdrawal, because that is very important. Without that, we aren't going anywhere. Nawaz Sharif needs a safe American withdrawal from Afghanistan. He needs the Afghan Taliban to be talking to Americans and talking to President Hamid Karzai. And I am sure that he will be playing a role to try and get Taliban to open an office in Doha. We will see that early in his government, and preparing the Americans to do the same thing. So if that is done, that defangs the Pakistani Taliban. Then Pakistani Taliban are devoid of a cause, a justifiable cause that they can flaunt or gain sympathies or seek justification. And it will become easier for him to back military to deal with Pakistani Taliban, who, if this happens, will be reduced to mere insurgents. Because then, if they fight, America is gone, this transition is taken care of smoothly, and they fight for the formation of an Islamic government, imposition of Sharia in Pakistan, that will not gain much currency against Nawaz Sharif's government. It will not.
Okay. And what about, I mean, as you rightly mentioned, that NATO will withdraw and Pakistani Taliban or TTP will be left on their own. So do you think they need another battlefield? Because that is within their nature, and there's so many Uzbek, Tajiks, people from Chechnya, they're living in Waziristan, they have married there. So what objective they will have? Afghanistan will be contained through NATO policies, we hope so. And so are we going to open up another Kashmir?
Yeah, that's right. But I don't think you have a situation which is in any way similar to Kashmir in our northern areas. One, because Kashmir is a different cause. It had the backing of a UN resolution. It had the history behind it, and without going into details, and the uproar and the movement for Kashmir's liberation or whatever in the beginning had massive support among the local population. Kazakhstan's, the Taliban rule by arms. They don't have support among normal Pashtuns, because Pashtuns in FATA and in KP have suffered a lot because of this turmoil. That is one thing. So if they don't have a legitimate cause which to abide by and through which to elicit sacrifice from the population, like liberation or independence, that devoids them of legitimacy. That is one thing. So their advantages are two. One, they are very well armed, and second, they operate in a very difficult terrain where it is very difficult for any military or security apparatus to deal with them, even Pakistan's, which is eighth largest army in the world and spends 2.8% of the total military spending of the world on its army. So that is it. So they can continue to be a menace. What is more important for Nawaz Sharif is to delegitimize the Islamic militancy in Pakistan and control the sectarianism. If he can do that, then he will be able to defang all of these extremists and terrorists. Because that is what.
Is this not the rhetoric of Imran Khan or PTI that you come out of NATO's or America's war and then they will not have any legitimate standing within the society, so they will be disarmed? So is it this what you're saying, or?
No, I'm not saying that. Look, I said just now that they will need American cooperation for the safe withdrawal. They will try and get Taliban to talk to the US and find a modus vivendi till at least 2014 and 2015. Imran Khan's rhetoric was more populist than Nawaz Sharif. Nawaz Sharif also talked about the US, but all political parties and leaders had an entire US rhetoric or idiom during the election campaign because it was a vote getter. Now that Nawaz Sharif has to rule, the reality will sink in. He will have to talk to the US, and I'm hopeful on that count that he's a pragmatist. So I think he knows very well that whatever Pakistan does, the Americans are not going to stop drone missile attacks. This because there's no better alternative. And Pakistan government has connived at those all along. This is the main stumbling block in terms of the popular perception, and this is what Imran Khan built his popularity on this policy aspect on. So the issue is, how does Pakistan get the best deal with the Americans on the use of drones? And I don't see Sharif telling Americans that to stop the use of drones, because that's not going to happen. But I see Sharif using it to a greater advantage and eliciting a bigger leverage out of allowing them to make some specific hits.
We can understand, after the speech by President Obama, that drone will be more contained and there will not be any shadow strikes. It will be more surgical strikes. So obviously that will serve the Nawaz Sharif political purpose. So do you think that this will benefit Nawaz Sharif politically as well as Imran Khan, and also that these Taliban's or TTP or other militant wings, they will be taking it towards more sectarian Pakistan?
That is my main worry. Where I want to see Nawaz Sharif making progress is to diffusing the sectarian situation, because that is what fuels extremism in Pakistan, and that is what gravitates people towards these extremists. If you take that out, people have nothing, because that's why they don't vote for them. They go and march behind them, or they go to their mosque or madrasas, but they don't vote for them because they don't actually relate to that kind of extremism in Pakistan still. So for Nawaz Sharif, the main challenge will be how he deals with the US and what kind of entente he is able to do. Look, you talked about President Obama's speech. President Obama's speech has certainly not come in a vacuum. There is some thought process behind it, and there is definitely some progress and some kind of understanding that is being harnessed between the US and Pakistan. So that is a positive sign.
So is it not that we as a common citizen, we just do not understand the big game plan, and now if you go and look back, and everything is bedding in rightly according to US and Saudi's plan?
Yes, US and Saudi's plan But Nawaz Sharif is someone who will obviously try and balance it with Pakistan's interest also. But look, where Nawaz Sharif is taking over the government, he has very little maneuverability. He has very little leverage. He has to have good relationships with his neighbors. He has to have good relationships with the US and Saudi Arabia if he has to have any hope of correcting and improving the economy. So the next 2 years are very crucial for Pakistan's economy, and I think that is what he will be focused on. So as I said at the beginning, that my worry would be that he does not give away too much to buy peace. Buy peace, he will. That is his basic instinct. That is his businessman instinct. That is his practical and pragmatic politician's instinct. What I would be watching very carefully is that how much he gives in or how much he trades for buying that peace. And that is something that I will watch.
Obviously, we have seen reports in the media that Dawn has mentioned this story, that $15 billion is on its way from Saudi Arabia to finish the energy crisis. So do you think, but also there on the other side, there are reports that Pakistani army has been prepared to go into Syria. I mean, do you believe in these sort of conspiracy theories, or do you want them to materialize first and then you want to comment on those?
I think there will definitely be some wooing of Saudi Arabia. And for me, what would be of interest is how much Nawaz Sharif is willing to bargain in the process. That is one thing. For example, let's hope he does not sacrifice or dent relations with Iran. When initially he publicly opposed the gas pipeline with Iran, for example, but that was the populist rhetoric and everything that was said. Nawaz Sharif, if you see his campaign throughout this, he was poised to win the election, and he didn't want a spanner in the works. He did not want a damper to spoil the show. So he made all the right noises, he pulled all the right strings, but now he's got where he wanted to get, and you will see a somewhat different person. He will know to negotiate, I hope so. So in terms of Saudi aid, yes, initially Nawaz Sharif will need Saudi aid. American aid is very difficult to get because it gets approved at various levels. It gets questioned by all and sundry in the American Electoral College and in the media. There are no such insurmountable difficulties that Saudis face. So Saudi is the easiest reprieve at this point in time. He will probably try and benefit from it, but I don't think he will subjugate his interest or his entire foreign policy to that economic
Okay,
aid.
let's move to Iran Pakistan pipeline, IPP. How do you see its future?
Iran's Pakistan pipeline is a viable economic project, but it is it was signed and hyped by Mr. Zardari towards the end. It was a good progress, but more symbolic than anything else. If he was so serious, he could have done it 3 years ago. So the implementation will take a few years. Pakistan side, nothing has been constructed. Some of the contracts have not yet been awarded out. For me, economically, it makes sense. I wrote about it, and from Pakistan's perspective, it makes sense. But it is not something that will be staring in the face of Nawaz Sharif the next day he takes oath. There is time. So I don't think he will do anything drastic on it. If he wants to please someone, he will just, there is enough way to procrastinate it and delay it as people have done in the past. So I don't think it will come to a point of conflict.
And what about the Gwadar port itself?
Now, the Gwadar port itself, that is something that will continue because Pakistan sees and cultivates China as an alternative strategic partner. So Pakistan's relationship with China is it has a very deep intent. It has not so much to show for it in terms of economic aid, in terms of grants or whatever, but Pakistan clearly keeps China as a close ally in terms of putting its weight behind Pakistan on major strategic and geopolitical issues in the world, and to keep a powerful ally in the region.
But you mentioned the powerful ally, but people have been questioning this friendship as well. That there's nothing actually materialized other than giving some donations and having this go other port. There's no objectivity in the business transactions, and America is still the number one business partner in terms of trade and exports. So is it China is just using Pakistan for its own benefit or for its own sort of economic and regional activities together?
No, I will not say that, but I think China feels obliged to Pakistan since Pakistan assisted President Nixon in forging links with China. That was a major point in the history of China. Chinese have long memory and they have the attribute of gratitude. But at the same time, there is little in terms of symbiotic partnership that China and Pakistan can develop at this point in time. So that's why I said that the strategic intent of this partnership is much deeper than the economic manifestations that you see on the surface or the display of a real commercial cooperation, because there is little complementarity there. So yes, for example, China at one point gave more aid to Haiti than to Pakistan, for example. America was the biggest donor. So that's why I said at the beginning that economically, you remain dependent on the US. And you remain dependent on your relationship with the US because you need Bretton Woods institutions. So US is the dominant force in the World Bank, in IMF, and everywhere. So China's partnership, I don't think Pakistan will do anything to displease China. I think Pakistan in the last 5 years has cultivated China just in the right measure. And that is probably what we'll see happening.
Okay, so let's move on to further to east now. Asian countries, Southeast Asian countries, you have obviously traveled a lot, and being in the financial sector yourself, tell us that what are the opportunities for Pakistan on if you start looking east, which was in those all party manifestos when they were contesting elections. Do you really think they're going to look east rather than west?
They will definitely look east, but there is no instant gratification available from the east at this point in time. East is growing. Asia is the most dynamic region in the world at this point in time, and it has been so for last 5 to 6 years. But Tehseen, Pakistan has to get its economy right, put its house in order, get it turn itself into an attractive place for investment before it can really seek to benefit from the East. It can start good relationships and negotiations, but today Pakistan is most likely and most set to use its political position, geopolitical leverage to get economic benefits, and those will come from Saudi Arabia, those will come from the West and the US, and to some extent China, a balancing act. Apart from East, Central Asia also is a great opportunity for Pakistan, and Pakistan missed out on it in the early 90s when they became independent. Now, in last 3 years, we have seen Pakistan making some progress, and India has made more progress in getting into especially Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan, which are the economies which have grown many-fold, not 2, 3, 4 times, many-fold over the last 15 years. And that also, but before doing all that, we have to address some of the immediate problems. We have to jump through some hoops that are a lot more important, and that's what we talked about. Get the economy in some decent shape, get your
but
biggest
how
political
would that
problem
happen when there's no peace within the country. No investor is ready to come and invest within the country, and there's a huge energy crisis, 6,000 megawatts. I mean, how do you see that happening?
Now, energy crisis is the most difficult to handle on the economic side. We discussed that. I'm waiting for Mr. Sharif made a promise. So there have been promises, and he disowned Shehbaz
Shehbaz
Sharif's
Sharif,
promises.
other day, yes,
And
indeed.
he said, no, yeah, that was his personal view. I don't think that anybody is allowed in personal views in our major political parties. But he said, so I want him to come out with a clear blueprint how he needs to address it, and then we can probably support, criticize, or analyze it. So with energy apart, the second point which you rightly pointed out is peace. Peace, as we discussed, Nawaz Sharif can buy peace from the extremist because of the leverage and the handle he has because of Saudi Arabia, and because of the credentials that he boasts, which cannot be easily exploited or tarnished by the extremists among the local population, especially in Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. My worry would be, as I said, how much he trades for that peace and how deep that peace will run. I think that is the main challenge, to dissociate Pakistan from the image, which is not entirely wrong, of being a hotbed for extremism in the world, Islamic extremism, militancy. And you had made a very pertinent point in an earlier question when you said that there are thousands of Chechens and Uzbeks who have nowhere to go. They go back to their country, they get killed. If Afghanistan is able to wrest a deal from Taliban, then obviously that will disallow these people from going back to Afghanistan. And that is my major worry. What do you do with these people who have no economic interest, but their life is embedded in our FATA areas? Where do they go from here? And this will be a major problem for Nawaz Sharif to tackle.
So how would he tackle it? Any solutions or any suggestions you have?
Yeah, one solution
at this moment in time, we even don't know that who will be negotiating Taliban, on what terms, and which groups, because there are so many groups from Gul Bahadur to Hakimullah Masood and Maulvi Fazl of Sawat. They don't even sit together. So how will we even negotiate with those?
Yes. Taliban, look, FATA is not going to become a valley of peace, love, and harmony overnight. It is a long haul. So any optimism that you may have or anybody may harbor has to be seasoned with a great deal of caution. Turmoil in FATA will continue. When people start negotiating and laying down their arms ostensibly, there is a lot of internecine and internal strife. So we will see all these groups coming apart, splinter groups forming and reaching out for each other's throat. The main problem for me is one, as I said, to delegitimize Taliban. When they are delegitimized, believe me, they will have much lesser safe havens in the country, and they will get much less support from their sponsors. That is one thing. Second thing is to placate some of the major players, some of the major commanders who hold the strategic positions, not because they have the most fighters, but they hold the most strategic locations in FATA, if you know. If you can broker peace in Orakzai Agency, in Tira Valley, and in Waziristan, you have already done half the job. There are hardly any strategic locations to fight from in Khyber, for example. So that is one thing. Second thing is that you have to be able to give something in return. So which is probably, if they lay down peace, you let them go scot-free. And then you'll have to bring some semblance of economic development in the area to win the favor of the local population to create a perception that FATA is not being neglected by Pakistan as it has been for last 65 years. If that happens, this problem can be handled. The more difficult problem would be to handle the foreign fighters that are hiding in FATA. We don't know how many they are, uh, what is their numerical strength, what is their military strength, how much they are embedded, how many of them are married here. So that will be something that will need to be tackled. It is a long haul. Peace can be assured, but the cure can be, so peace can be assured by band-aids. You can have pain subside through painkillers, but cure will be a very long haul one. It is not going to be accomplished during one tenure of Nawaz Sharif's government. It will take many more years than that.
So what about, I mean, well, discussing FATA region, and PTI will be governing FATA, and not FATA itself, because it's a federally administrated area, but the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. So what is the future of PTI? Do you see them delivering in any chances? Is there any chances that they will be delivering?
Yes, look, PTI has the person of Imran Khan. So all these 18% votes have gone to Imran Khan. That is one thing. There's hardly any history. There's hardly any organization. That is one. Second thing, the way we have seen PTI, I would say reacting to in the aftermath of the elections or behaving, my personal view is that they were not ready to govern. But the history has placed them at a very important juncture. If they can give a good account of themselves as in 5 years of apprenticeship in the opposition in the center and in their confrontation with reality in KPK, they will probably make a lot of progress. Now, coming to the more concrete part of your question, how do I see them doing in KPK? It will depend, Tahseen, on how quickly they can reconcile with the reality. They have created perceptions that Taliban will lay down the arms and they will come and clean the streets of Peshawar and Mardan and Chasadda. That is not going to happen. That is one thing. And second, unity of purpose. KPK has to enlist the support of the central government. If it has an agenda in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is totally divergent or opposed to what the federal government and the military wants to do, it will come to naught. So for me, PTI's main challenge is to develop a roadmap to make progress in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, enlist the support of army and the backing of the federal government, and then carry that out. If they are able to do it and show some progress in last 5 years, next 5 years in a province that has been in turmoil for a long time, in a province that has been forced to vote and try a new party in every election in the last 5 elections, then I think they will make KPK their own base, like Sindh is for People's Party.
But you said they need to reconcile with the reality. But don't you think that was the only party who has given the policy planning and who had their white papers in place? Don't you think they are well prepared for it, or?
Their policy planning and white papers were great, but they were simplistic. Mm-hmm. Political world is more tortuous than writing papers on economy and eradicating corruption. When it came to reality, why did they not name Asad Qaisar as the chief minister of KPK?
I mean, that was very disappointing, I believe.
Yeah, why did they not bring a new face? They brought Mr. Khattak, Parvez Khattak, who has been part of the assembly's furniture for last so many years, who has been in the government, out of the government, who has well spread political tentacles. So yes, this is the first sign of reconciling with reality. And this will continue to happen. This will continue to happen but as long as they are willing to bargain idealism for results without compromising integrity, I think that is fine. We should back them. So that will be their major test.
Okay.
They should not compromise the principles that are the guidelines that they have set for themselves and that they have communicated to their supporters. But there will be adjustment. If you cannot act on a fast-moving terrain without adjusting from time to time, and that is not going to happen. So they have to learn to adjust, and this is the first adjustment they have already made.
Okay, last question. Do you think really Pakistan in next 5 years or in next 2 to 3 years will be moving towards a more pluralistic, forward-thinking, liberal, and more peaceful, and there will be less negative connotation around it overall? Do you see it? And if you don't, then why?
In some respects, I am hopeful, and cautiously hopeful, and in some respects, I will remain watchful. Where I am hopeful is, I think, under Nawaz Sharif, we will see economic progress. Big business will prosper. There will be some investment coming in. There will be a clear focus on the projects that make economic process sense, and the institutions like railways and PIA and other institutions will probably be better run. They were all destroyed under Mr. Zardari because he had never run even a private factory. He had no idea how to run an institution, and he put his friends to run the institutions. Nawaz Sharif definitely will find other ways to reward his friends, probably, if he has to, but not through compromising in his institutions. So that is where I'm hopeful. Economy, our major national institutions, and investment. Where I will remain watchful before letting hope into my system will be extremism in the country. Because if you buy peace and if you let extremists dig deeper roots, then you have a problem in the longer run. We have seen it before, we have done it before, and we are paying the price for that. So, and this is what will happen if he gives in too much on the legislative side, bringing in rings in too many, I would say, Sharia regulations or.
So basically, if he tries the same attitude he had in the 1990s, you don't see any
in
hope?
The second government.
In the second government.
Not the first.
Yes, indeed.
Not the first. The first government was very pragmatic, and it was unfortunate that it was brought to an end. Yes, then I see, but this is not 1999's or 98's Pakistan. This time the price will be much higher. Somebody has to be able to tackle the menace of extremism. Sometimes someone has to be able to uproot it or to deprive it of its legitimacy and popular appeal. And Nawaz Sharif is in a position to do it. Whether or not he will make those hard decisions remain to be seen, and remains doubtful because of his proximity to Saudi Arabia. But if anyone can do it, he can do it. So that is the second area. Third area is the national solidarity, pluralism, as you said. He will rule Punjab. There are serious issues on NFC awards and other areas, water and a number of things, where you have to appease and convince the smaller provinces. So 4 provinces, well, Balochistan is a very small government, but hopefully at least 3 provinces will have 3 different parties. But the difference this time will be that the party in the center will also be governing Punjab, which is almost all of the power in Pakistan. And they will have to learn to deal with Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, and Sindh, and let them have their share. So that will be the third major challenge.
Thank you very much, Asif, for joining us from New York. Viewers, we have spoken about the post-election scenario of Pakistan, and we have identified, at least, it's obvious that these are the 3 main challenges: extremism, economy, and inclusiveness. Taking everyone on board should be the main priority of the next government. And we hope and wish that this next government of Pakistan will be able to portray an image of Pakistan across the world that doesn't have any negative connotations around it. With this prayers, as always, Gam Hamko na de siwaye Gam-e Shabbir. शब्बीर का गम बांट रहा है तो इधर दे। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मदिन व आले मुहम्मद।